Hey, good evening. Welcome into another episode of Feldco Football Recap Live with Olin Kreutz, Tom Waddle. I'm David Kaplan. We'll have a special guest, Chase Daniel, join us in about 15 minutes. We'll break down Justin Fields, talk some quarterback play. But, OG, you've got your Washington shirt on. You were in Vegas to watch the victory over Oregon. What was that experience like?
It was awesome. Allegiant Stadium is a pretty cool stadium, man. I mean, I don't think there's a bad seat in the house, but Washington fans, I don't know how much our listeners know about Seattle. Obviously, you watch the Seahawks play, you see how loud those fans are. The Washington fans are the same. So they travel, they're loud. I can't say I've sat in the stands a lot to watch Washington play. I didn't realize just how crazy they were. They love their team. Obviously, it was a Pac-12 championship, so it was a great event, and Washington played well, which made it even better. And a lot of alumni came out, obviously, to support Washington. I think it's the last Pac-12 championship with all those teams in the Pac-12. So pretty cool win for them. And, they had two uncles at quarterback. I call them Uncle Nicks and Uncle Penix because they're about 50 years old each. So watching those guys is an interesting dynamic in football nowadays, right? DeBoer came from Indiana. He was Penix's OC at Indiana. I think he's 24-2, guys, since he got to Washington. When they lost Peterson, we were all worried. Chris Peterson, great head coach, came from Boise State. But then they hired this guy, and I mean, honestly, I didn't even heard of him. But, man, what a job he's done.
We talked about this, I think, a while ago, Olin. And look, if I was a college, student athlete, I'd stay in school as long as I could. But think about the advantage that whether it's Penix or it's Bo Nix, I mean, both of them, I think, have been in school forever. But the advantage that someone that's got that type of experience has at the age of 22 or 23 or even 24, I think Joe Burrow was 24 when he finally got out of college versus an 18 or a 19-year-old that you may be facing. I think it's an interesting dynamic, but it's one that I would definitely take advantage of. If I was a college football player, I'd stay in school as long as I could.
Okay, so how many times have you sat in the stands at a high-level college game or a program, other than watching your boys play, which is super cool at Illinois? And Tommy, same question to you. I didn't play the NFL. I get this every week. I'm locked in watching ball. How about you guys?
Well, I'm watching ball every week now in the stands. I mean, I've been to a handful of Washington games. Obviously now with Illinois, I went to University of Hawaii games growing up. So, we weren't always in the NFL. We actually grew up just like you. We grew up just like you, going to games, in case you're wondering.
Right, but I've talked to a lot of players. They're like, I've never sat.
I got to be honest. I got to be honest with you guys. I think I've been to maybe 3 Bears games since I retired in 1995. Partially because getting in and out of Soldier Field, I know that the Bears don't want to hear this, but it is a pain in the ass. I just think now also with the technology and the number of cameras that are at every game, for me, sitting on my couch, I can see the game better and I consume the game in a little more relaxed environment. I have only girls. So all I went to was college soccer games. My oldest played at Northwestern and my 2 middle ones played at Vanderbilt. So I got an opportunity to watch them play college soccer. And at BC, we were lucky if we had 15,000 people in the stands. So our chant was win or lose, drink the booze. So if we lost, there was a party. If we won, there was a party. But we weren't playing in anybody's national championship game, that's for sure.
All right,
I remember, Cap, being from Honolulu. Now, in our state championship game, to be honest, there was 30,000 people. There was St. Louis versus Kahuku. There's a lot of people showed up. Hawaii people Polynesian people love their football now. They love it. We drove over Mountain Lake at Seattle, and the yachts were coming into the stadium, and it's 78,000 strong. And I couldn't believe it. And I couldn't believe the amount of support Seattle fans have for their team.
All right, let's talk about where the Bears are, because 5 games to go. And I asked this question on my question of the day today. What is the single most important thing that has to be answered over the next 5 games? What do you guys think that is? Is it the fate of Matt Eberflus? The fate of Justin Fields? Is it something else? A fate of Luke Gutsy? Where are we?
Yes, yes, and yes.
You want the easy answer or the hard? I mean, I think we all know what the easy answer is, right? Do you have your quarterback? And we'll have Chase on later, thankfully, to talk someone who knows quarterback play and what he sees on film. But it's just the age-old question for Chicago Bears, right? Do we have a quarterback that can be, a multiplier, make everyone better? You can surround him with people and see if you can go and win a Super Bowl and have not only that, Tom, but I think the most important thing when you have a quarterback is consistent winning, right? You're always in the fight. You're always in a playoff run. You're winning games, which we all know has been a problem around here a long time.
Yeah, I mean, you want to get to the situation or a scenario where you're winning because of, not with. I mean, you can get to the top of the mountain in certain instances with a win-with kind of quarterback, but I think ultimately you want to find somebody or develop somebody into a win because of guy. Look, I think those are all important questions, Kat. I want to see this team win. And look, it's very likely that this Bears organization is going to have the number 1 overall pick, at the very least the number 2 overall pick, because they own the Carolina pick. I'm not going to be pissed off or upset if they win several games with their young guys or because of their young guys, and their pick ultimately falls at 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever the case may be. I want to see this team start to win because of their young football players and the guys on this roster that I think do have a pretty promising future. So yes, obviously the questions are, is the coach going to be around after this season? Is the quarterback going to be around after this season? But I also have got my eye on watching how this team plays and see if they learn how to win games. Remember, guys, this team hasn't won consecutive games since week 16 and 17 of the 2021 season.
Matt Nagy was the coach.
Right. So they got their first division win under Matt Eberflus against the Vikings. Now let's see if they can win back-to-back games. I think it's a gettable Lions team. They're good, but I think they're a gettable team. Let's see if they can build something because of the play of their young guys, which I think would be very encouraging.
This is our Four Seasons season recap, brought to you by Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. For all the right reasons. 4 seasons. 4 and 8. Olin, going into a game now at home against the Lions. The Lions have not played well the last few weeks. They were bad against the Bears. They lost on Thanksgiving to the Packers in Detroit. I got to think that that's been a big focal point, a big talking point for them. But the Bears take the field on Sunday feeling like we should have beat their ass up there. So how do you approach this game if you were coaching this team or if you were playing?
With what you just said, that we showed them we could beat them in their house, you get 4 takeaways and you lost the game, which is almost impossible, right? When you talk about NFL and the numbers and the percentage to win or lose that game. So you go in, we always talk about being strong down the middle. Well, their center might be out. Their nose guard is out. They just put him on IR. You do have a chance to beat this football team and continue to play good football. And you had them on the ropes. And whatever the reasons were, we went through all the reasons, the pass, not keep the ball, the defense not stopping them on 2 minutes. But you're playing better football. You have 8 takeaways. You're +5 in the last 2 games. Your defense looks a lot better. You should be coming out of your bye healthy. Everyone should be fresh and ready to play their best football because, guys, that has got to be one motivated football team at Hallis Hall. There's a lot of guys in that building that have a lot to prove, right? There's a lot of guys fighting for the jobs. Nothing scarier in the NFL than a bunch of guys fighting for their jobs at the end of the year and coming out and playing good football. So I think now that the offense wasn't great last game, but it did enough to win, and we asked them to do that. So now let's see. I'm in there saying, I'm straight up with them, Tom. A lot of guys who get fired, a lot of us won't be here if we don't play good football to end this season.
Yeah, there's no question. There's a lot on the line individually and as a group. I would say as well, play with confidence. Play with confidence. As Olin said, defensively, you've played good football. Hasn't been, perfect, but it's been really good. You've taken the ball away. I think in the last 8 weeks, they're holding opponents to 18 points per game. They've sacked 15 quarterbacks. They've taken it away 15 times in the last 2 months. Pass rush is getting better. Play with confidence. Offensively, they've had success against this Lions defense. It's not a good defense at this point. They don't rush the passer. They've really struggled to contain Justin in the running game. I believe Justin has rushed for better than 100 yards in each of the last 3 matchups with the Lions and averaging 128 rushing yards per game against this crew. So come into this game at home expecting to win. Play with confidence. So, that's the way I would hope that they would come out with a little bit of swagger. play confident, be disciplined though. I mean, this team's still not as talented as most teams in the league. So you got to win the turnover battle. You got to limit your penalties, but play with a little bit of a swagger.
So I had to choose the play and player of the first half for the up to the bye week. So I ended up choosing DJ Moore as the most outstanding Bear. He is the bye week player of the year, brought to you by Dr. Pepper, an American original, just like our Bears. Pleasing your taste buds since 1885. Grab an ice cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you. I also gave him play of the year, guys. That was the play against Washington when he caught that last touchdown, turned the defender, gambled, and he took it all the way to the house down the sideline. And that was probably the best game of the year for the Bears, where they thumped the Commanders on Thursday Night Football. Do you guys agree DJ Moore should be the player of the first half of the season?
I definitely do, Cap and Olin. I told you guys, I mean, look, that's, Dick Tracy, where'd you park the cop car? I'm not an investigative reporter to tell you that DJ Moore's their best player. And you could notice that in their first training camp practice. He's just one of these guys that makes everybody better. That's what we talk about in terms of elite players. Do you make the guys around you better? Like, there were several plays in that Washington game that were just simple hitch routes, and they're well-delivered throws. But DJ takes that football with his strength and his speed and takes a 6-yard gain and turns it into a 40-yard gain, or turns it into a 60-yard gain. The term that Olin likes to use, and I love it, is a multiplier. And he is one of those guys. He is their best player. He's their most accomplished player. He's over 1,000 yards on the season. He makes his quarterback better. He makes the wide receivers in that huddle better. So I have no problem with your selection, Cap.
Yeah, Cap, obviously DJ Moore is not a bad selection. I'll just go against the grain and say Andrew Billings. I think they have the number one run defense in the league because of this guy. And I think because he plays in the middle so stout, they get to do everything they want to do in that cover 2 defense and run their stunts and stop the run. I mean, their numbers are interesting, right? Because the defense is playing well. We talk a lot about the secondary. They're actually better at stopping the run. It's just interesting to me when you watch them play and then you look at their numbers. And then I think play of the year for me, Cat, would probably be, I think it was the Lions game when Fields drove up in the pocket and hit DJ Moore over the top. I forget what played. I think that was the Lions game.
Oh, that laser beam
throw?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a great play. Now, obviously, they lost that game, so it's hard to make that the play of the year. But one of the better plays I've seen watching it. And, Andrew Billings, he's really been dominant. He reminds me of Pat Williams, the old nose guard for the Minnesota Vikings, the way he plays that nose position in his kind of Tampa 2 hybrid-style defense. I call it what Eberflus is doing now, a little bit of a hybrid of the Tampa 2 of what he runs. It reminds me of what Mike Tomlin ran when he was up there in Minnesota.
Imagine that. I'd choose someone on the flank as a wide receiver. Olin would choose somebody in the trenches.
Yeah, no question about it.
I wasn't going to go Darnell Wright, but I couldn't give the rookie the player of the year.
Our special guest tonight is Chase Daniel, and he is joining us now. Former Bears quarterback, longtime NFL quarterback. Chase, thank you for taking time joining us on Feldco Football Recap Live. How are you tonight?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for having me. Olin, how you doing, man? It's been
Chase,
a while.
Man. I forgot to wear my hat backwards, bro. I forgot, man.
You're looking good, man. You lost some weight, dude. I like it. It's
Trying
been a while,
to stay lean,
man.
Chase, man.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know, me and Chase were actually teammates until they threw me out of New Orleans, or I threw myself out. A lot of stuff happened in that building.
That was a fun year. That was a fun year.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So, Chase, give us your thoughts on Justin Fields. It's such a hot button topic. You're either a Justin guy or you're not a Justin guy. And if you're not a Justin guy, you're a hater. Where are you on Justin Fields going forward? Because the Bears are going to probably pick number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I like him. And I've been very vocal on social media about it. And the reason I like him is a couple reasons. I'll tell you why. The main reason is when you turn on the film of this year, outside of the first 2 or 3 games that this offense was under center play action run game, which does not fit him. Like, you look at the actual film and the dude's played pretty well with an offensive line that hasn't really been up to standard. Receivers other than DJ Moore. Okay. Yeah. You got Cole Kmet playing well. Darnell Mooney, DJ Moore. And the whole question, Cap, is like, and what I get people ask me, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a front office guy. It's like, do you roll with Justin Fields the next year or two, or do you pick a quarterback at number one? And I'm of the notion, what I've seen the past, really, it starts at the Patriots game last year. Like from then, the offense has been really fit his style of play. And from then, okay, he's played well, other than a few games, takes a lot of sacks. I get that. But I'm under the impression is, hey, why don't you draft a tackle at one or someone up there, and then draft Marvin Harrison Jr., surround Justin with weapons, maybe make an offensive coordinator change if you don't like Luke or whatever. That's not for me to, but like if you run an actual offense that Justin Fields is good at running and you surround the quarterback with weapons, I think that he could possibly be a top 15 type quarterback. I just don't know if he's had enough experience with good people around him to actually dig in and understand, like, hey, this is what I think of Justin Fields. And quite honestly, they got a crazy decision ahead of them, and Ryan Poles does. I don't envy their situation whatsoever.
Guys?
Case, do you think there's a disconnect between the offensive coordinator and Justin and the system that they're asking him to play in?
I would say the first, like, just purely basing it on film. And that's what I like. I root myself in the truth and on film. If you look at the first 3 games, it was an offense that Justin did not feel comfortable with at all. And that was the whole soundbite, right? Week 3 or whatever it was. He came out and said, it's coaching. Well, maybe it was a little bit coaching. Justin's the type of guy, and I've been around plenty of them, that don't give him too much at the line. Just give him a play, let him roll with it. If it's not there, he's good. Like Justin, in my mind, is like, here's your number 1 read. Here's your number 2 read. Take off. Get the quarterback run game going. And he's looked a lot more comfortable for whatever reason in the pocket lately. Maybe he's starting to just calm down. But then you look at what they're doing now, and it sort of fits what Justin is. If they can add a few more weapons, maybe get an offensive lineman, I think they could be really good on offense. Like, I really do, the way Justin is trending right now.
Olin.
Chase, I listened to your YouTube and watch your breakdowns. They're awesome, man. You do a great job on those. But
thank you.
When you say, okay, Justin Fields change the offense, 1 or 2 reads, then take off running. Number one, give us an example of that. And my other question I have for you is, when you see quarterbacks developing, what kind of offensive staff? I'm not saying fire Gutsy, but say they kept Luke Gutsy. What kind of staff would you build around Luke Gutsy? Like, for example, the Ravens have Willie Taggart at running back coach, who is, for Florida State, and he has all those offensive concepts, the zone read and stuff like that. Just from your point of view, if you were not only players, but you were going to make Justin strong, you've been around a lot of great coaches. If anybody goes through your history, how would you build a staff to make Justin Fields the most complete quarterback he can be?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's the number one thing they got to realize. Like, if we're going to keep Justin, we do have to build a staff around him. And for me, it's a young, offensive, creative play caller, Olin, right? Like, that's the guy who, if you're going to say, hey, Eberflus is out or whatever happens, or we're keeping Eberflus, like, I do think that like a guy like that, if Eberflus is, like, whatever happens at the end of the year, fired, or whatever, like, you got to bring in a guy that, one, builds everything you do around Justin Fields. Because if you keep Justin Fields as the guy and you pick up his 5th-year option and you pass on a Caleb Williams and a Drake May, you're telling me that Justin is the guy for the foreseeable future, and you're going to do everything in your power to build around that. And to me, it's an offensive guy. I've always been, Olin, around offensive coaches. And for whatever reason, like, if you're a quarterback and you have an offensive head coach, you just feel better, man. Like, it's not the worst. Not everything gets pinned on you. If you have bad, I've seen it, man. I've seen defensive head coaches throw their quarterback under the bus, whether in private or in public. Like, none of that would happen. And Eber's been great. Like, Flus was my defensive coordinator at college. Like, me and Flus go way back, dude. He coached at the University of Missouri. So I like Flus as the head coach, but I think that's the biggest thing that I would do. You have to surround the guy with, and you have to prove to him too, and build that confidence with him that he is the actual guy, by building a staff around him, by also building players around him, getting a true number 1 receiver outside of DJ Moore. Like, you could have 1 and 1A. Like, that'd be pretty sweet to me.
Let me ask you more about Flus, because He's also a hot button topic. People are like, I don't know. He's not great at the microphone. That's where they get him. I know that has nothing to do with winning football games. What do you like about Matt Eberflus as a football coach?
He's really calming. And honestly, he helped recruit me like in high school. Like I've known the dude forever, which is wild. And he's just a really good calming presence. Obviously, his track record as a defensive coordinator in this league is very well liked between all the people I've ever talked to, all the front office guys. That's why he got a head coaching job. And I just don't see, I mean, I don't know. It is a hot topic button. And I just can't see how they move on from him after a season or two. Like it just, for me, it doesn't make sense. But what I liked about Flus the most is that's the thing. Like he doesn't have to be good at the mic. Like if you're good at talking to your guys, like that's what I'm noticing more and more is a Dan Campbell type coach becoming uber successful is like, Olin, like if you're in a locker room, bro, and you can talk to the players and you can get the trust of the players and you can hold yourself accountable, but find a way to hold 25 to 30-year-old men accountable. Like these are grown men. You're not talking about college age kids. I think Eber does a really good job at that. And honestly, like the defense has played really well as late. So I don't know. I mean, it's up in the air. I know Bears fans would probably like to see him go, but I'm of the fact that I wouldn't mind seeing him stay another year.
Chase, are you surprised to see how Justin's style has changed? Because if you go back to Ohio State, I don't think any of us watched all of his games at Ohio State, but he was tremendous from the pocket. You look at his touchdown interception ratio. I believe his max rushing yardage and his best year was like 480 yards. He wasn't asked to do some of the things that he has shown he is so very dangerous to do here in the NFL. Are you surprised to see the style kind of change at this level versus what he was doing back at Ohio State?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what he did at Ohio State was he held the ball for 6 seconds because he never got touched. And that's sort of been his downfall in the National Football League. If you actually go back and watch it, the dude's just back there patting the ball like 1, 2, 3, 4 back to like he never got touched. And the big thing that I liked about Justin was he played in some big games in college and he won those big games. Like he's a gamer and he's always had that running ability. They just never, I don't think they wanted to get him hurt at Ohio State. Right. And then I think you sort of unlocked him last year. The Patriots game was the unlocking of Justin Fields running the football because that was as impressive a running performance as I've seen. And then he went on to run over 1,000 yards and one of the best seasons running the ball since Michael Vick. I mean, it's just like, so he can do it. But what I've seen as of late, really the last 2 games and 3 games, even if you go back before his injury, was the mind speed up. And that's a good thing. Like, hey, I'm not holding the ball. I can't hold the ball on forever. I got to get through my progressions. His feet were sped up in a right way. He wasn't in a hurry, but he moved through progressions quickly. Like I could tell the growth, even if it's from those 3 to 4 games. Now he's got to continue to show this. And I told a lot of people that I've talked to about this privately, like, yeah, these next 6 games of the season, they're out of the playoffs. The Bears probably are, like, right? Like all that. I get that. But it's, Olin, you've been a part of, and so have I, like those seasons where you're not making the playoffs, you're playing for your livelihood, man. Mm-hmm. And quite honestly, sometimes when you do that, like the best comes out in you. And what I've seen so far is like Justin's got nothing to lose. And so now he's starting to let that down, to let his hair down and like show out, man. And that's what's impressive to me because the dude's gotten a lot of flack. Obviously in Chicago, it's part of the deal, right? As a quarterback, you get way too much credit when things go right, and you get way too much blame when things go wrong. And that's just sort of the middle ground. So honestly, like he's a good dude. Like I'm sure you guys did. I know it seems like it's been forever ago, but the speech in the locker room that Eber was given when they beat Minnesota, and Justin was like, whoa, hey, hold on. The accountability, like, hey guys, sorry about that. Those fumbles, like picked you up. Like I've never really seen a quarterback do that before. I'm not saying it's the end all be all, but it just shows a little bit about who he is, how much he cares. And that was a really cool moment in my opinion.
Yeah. And to your point, some of those plays he makes with his legs, I mean, they're unbelievable, man. I remember, I think it was his first or second year. Remember when Bosa was chasing him, he outran, made him look slow. I was like, how fast is this freaking Justin Fields, man? Yes. Some of those plays he made against Minnesota were wild. But Chase, you know what interests me, man, is just, I say it because now I do analyst work. I say quarterback development, right? And I came from, obviously when I came to you guys, in New Orleans, like I was amazed by Sean and Drew Brees and the way Drew and obviously you got to learn from Drew Brees and Sean Payton and the way they worked together and the details that they had just even in walkthrough, right? Just the way they would go through things and everything had to be perfect. If you were developing a quarterback with all your years of playing quarterback, with all the guys you got to see, right? Alex Smith, Andy Reid, Doug Peterson, Frank, I mean, you've been around. How would you develop Justin Fields? What things would he work on? How would you take a young quarterback and get him? And I know it depends on, let's say a quarterback like Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts. You got to get them to play better, get them to make the plays at the end of the game from the pocket to win big games like Justin against Minnesota. How would you develop young quarterbacks?
Well, you know, the easy thing is say, hey, if a new staff comes in, just tear it all down, start over. I don't think you need to start over with them. So that's a good thing. Like, he's got a really good base. I would probably try to, I guess, teach him how to unlearn certain traits maybe that he's picked up along the way. But he's already doing it, like holding the ball too long. Like, the ball's got to come out in the NFL. Like, you can't take negative plays. You got to work on your fumbles. That's the biggest situation. But for me, if I was like, because I get asked this all the time, like, hey, are you going to go into coaching? No, it's like, it would be awesome, but like too much family time, you know the deal. And so that's why I'm doing analyst stuff. But like, if I was coaching, I would be like, first of all, the very first thing, I would just try to get to know Justin as a guy, like just as a guy, and get a relationship with him, have him trust me. As soon as he trusts me, then I would just start giving him little bitty things. I think the worst thing, Olin, you've probably been a part of this in an offensive line room, is a coach that over coaches, that tries to
especially
tell
in the
you
NFL,
too much
right?
information. It is ridiculous. Like, NFL guys know what they're doing. They just need little pointers to point them in the right direction, right? If they're going down a wrong path, just sort of veer them back. It doesn't have to be some like crazy, huge commotion. It can be something as easy as like Sean Payton. I remember one time Sean Payton, we're in a meeting room, offensive staff room, and Drew was talking or whatever. And Sean was just like, yeah, you know, just think about it this way. And just like literally just something like that about a play. And he was able to like take that in. You didn't embarrass the guy in front of him, but then him and Sean talked about it later, and sure enough, Sean was right, and Drew was thinking about this play the wrong way. Like, there's little bitty things like that that good coaches can get out of players. Like, that's where I would start with. I would start from really the head and work down, right? Like, I would just start like, hey, reprogram him, giving them confidence, because he does have the confidence. And honestly, like, I think it was just coming to a head when he was like, oh, the coaching. Like, I don't know if he necessarily meant that in a bad way when that got a lot of play in Chicago.
Yep.
And really nationally. Like, I think what it meant was like, stop over coaching me. Like, let me just go be you. And that's the best thing, dude, Andy Reid's ever said to his quarterbacks. First of all, Andy Reid's team meetings are maybe 5 minutes long. That's it. Like, short, sweet, to the point, 3 points.
Wow.
And he ends every single team meeting with 2 words. You know what those 2 words are? Be you. That's it. Be yourself. Show your personality. We're going to coach you up. We're going to be tough on you. We're going to love you. But at the end of the day, if you're not free to make plays and make mistakes, because that's going to happen, you're going to make mental errors, then you're not going to be a very good player.
Tommy?
I'd be remiss, Chase, if I didn't ask you your thoughts on what you've seen from Jordan Love. Obviously, we're a Bears show, but because they're north of us and they are our biggest rival,
He looks good.
what you've seen from him and where you actually project what he'll be long-term as an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's sort of been the hot topic button. I did a couple interviews about him today, so I'm well versed on that. And really, it comes down to progression and development for me. Those are the 2 words that I sort of get. He started off really well, 3 touchdowns in his first 2 games, no interceptions, and they sort of went on a slide there, right? They were 3-6. He was sort of forgotten, and I'm gonna be honest, like, it's my job to watch quarterbacks and give my opinions and truths, and I just sort of stopped watching them because, quite honestly, the offense wasn't fun to watch, and they had a bunch of rookies right there, the youngest offense in the National Football League, and so I just sort of, and then all of a sudden, a little bit before the LA game, and then I started watching him again, and then LA game, come from behind win, 2-minute drive to win the game, and then they beat Detroit. And they beat the Chiefs. Like, if you would have told me that 3-6 beats Detroit and beats the Chiefs, 2 of the top teams, really top 7 teams in the National Football League right now, like, I'd be like, you're crazy. But it has to do with how the Packers organization is in developing quarterbacks, man. Like it sure looks like the Packers are going to have 3 starting quarterbacks, right? Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre, Jordan Love for the next, like, if you take them, like Lord Love could be for the next decade. That's going to be 38 years of 3 quarterbacks. The Jets use 4 quarterbacks this season.
Chase,
like,
we know, man.
And that's just is what it is. And it's crazy. Like, I know Chicago Sports Talk like hates to talk about it, but there's something they're doing. And I don't know what it is because I'm not in the building, but there's something they do. And they really put a premium on that front office in Green Bay of drafting the right guys. Maybe it's not the most popular guy, but guys that fit their scheme, and they develop the heck out of those guys.
Chase, interesting to hear you talk about real fast. You talked about how you stopped watching them. And something that a lot of people, I think, should understand is that as an NFL player, you put yourself on film and then people adjust to you and they attack your weakness, right?
Yeah.
As a quarterback now, I mean, I know as like a center, a lineman, what we have to do, you have to work on your weakness. As a quarterback, how do you come out of that? Like they go through 4 losses. And like you said, now all of a sudden he's playing better football. People notice what you don't do well. Like Flores, right? He attacks Fields in a certain way. He makes it hard on him. He makes it hard on the way he rushes, running. Like Jalen Hurts struggled against him too. It's just the Eagles were capable of rushing for 260 yards against them.
Yeah.
But as a quarterback, how do you go in a room, work on your weaknesses, and get better?
Well, Olin, you know it better than anyone. Like, first of all, it's a week-to-week league, man. Like, it's a copycat league as well. So it's a week-to-week league. Like, it don't matter what you did for me last week. What did you do for me this week? And then if someone finds something either that's really good or really bad, they're going to copycat it. Like, these coordinators are just like, hey, it worked. Let's do it. Okay. So you have to, that's a great question because you have to work on your weaknesses. You have to, and that's the thing with Justin Fields, right? Like the big thing with him was his first Minnesota game. Like Brian Flores blitzes 60% of the time. Like you got to have a hot answer. The first game, they didn't have any hot answers for him. Okay. This last game, they had a lot of stuff built in. People want to give them crap about all this bubble screens and stuff like that. Dude, he's just running the offense. That was the offense. They ended up winning. Okay. The 2 fumbles late should have been a lot bigger of a win for the Bears. But I think the biggest thing is just staying on track, right? Oh, and like you just, man, you can't get too high with the highs or too low with the lows. You just got to put in the work. Like that's what it comes down to. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. These guys are working their tails off. And it might not always be physical, right? It might be mental. It might be emotional. It might be psychological. Like it's a constant grind for these guys. And they do it for 24, 25 straight weeks. So just the subtle differences and details make all the difference, in my opinion. So that's what you have to do to continue to prove. Really, like for me, when I was in, like I played 14 years. I probably shouldn't have played 14 years, but I tried to prove to not only people on my team, but people off my team, but mainly to myself that you belong. Like you got to work your ass off every single day to belong in this league.
Hey, before we let you go, we really appreciate you taking time. How do people follow you? Where do they get you?
Yeah, just Twitter, Chase Daniel, Instagram. The biggest thing that I have going right now is these quarterback breakdowns. It's just the Chase Daniel show. And yeah, I started that this year, and it's been fun, honestly. Like I try to figure out a way. I'm doing NFL Network stuff. I'm doing 33rd Team Analyst, the athletic stuff. But I think this little niche that I've built here with these breakdowns, the demand has grown through the roof, and I'm doing like 6 a week right now. So we got CJ Stroud coming out tomorrow, and who else we got? Oh, we got Pickett and Mitch Trubisky. You know about Mitch, so that's coming out tomorrow too. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, just Chase Daniel show at YouTube.
Okay, I want to add, you said earlier in our interview, you said, I'm not a front office guy. I said this to Tommy and to Olin last week. If I'm the owner of the Bears, and we had the #1 pick last year, and I'm not saying they didn't make a good trade, and you decide not to take Caleb Williams, J.J. McCarthy, Drake, whoever it is, and we already know that C.J. Stroud looks like a keeper, top 10 guy, and you don't take one this year because we think we can coach Justin up. I'm probably not picking at the top of the draft again because my talent level is getting better. I'm calling my GM and going, you had the #1 pick 2 straight effing years, and we didn't get a quarterback in a town that hasn't had one. You're fired. Like, that's the decision, right?
I mean, that's exactly why I said I do not envy Ryan Poles, and I'm sure he's doing everything that he can right now to get it right because at the end of the day, like it's going to be a decision that's made in close contact with the owner, right? Like the owner's going to have a good say in it. Eventually, like I'm sure Ryan Poles will get his way, but they're going to trust their things. And that's why, I mean, like at the end of the day, like you hired Ryan Poles to do one job, and that's to win a championship. So Ryan Poles has to sit down and think, hey, what is the best move going forward? And he's not just thinking one step ahead. He's thinking multiple steps ahead. So I'm glad I don't have that decision though right now.
Hey, why did Mitch not make it? I was always a Mitch guy. These guys would always laugh at me. Like, he worked hard, first guy in the building. He had you helping to tutor. It just never worked.
Yeah, man, that's a tough question. That's a tough question to answer, you know, because in 2018, I mean, we were 12-4, Cap, right? And we could have easily been 14-2. We're 6 inches from a Hail Mary and 2 missed kicks away from being 14-2 and being the 1 seed. And I thought Mitch played really well that year. And then 2019 was a year of injuries for him, man. He had that shoulder and he was just never right with that. But at the end of the day, I just think that he just didn't make enough plays. I mean, he'd be the first one to tell you that, right? Like in this town, especially when they're just itching for a quarterback, man, which we never really had in Chicago. It's just it's like, man, like you got to play above and beyond, and just didn't work out for Mitch in the end.
Hey, man, we really appreciate you taking some time for us. We'd love to get you back again as we get closer toward the end of the season and talk Caleb Williams and all those guys.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Always good to see you, bro.
Thanks.
There he is, Chase Daniel, former Bears quarterback, as he said, 14 years in the league. That's really interesting stuff.
Super interesting,
talk
man.
about it. Super
good get, Cat. Really, really, really interesting to hear him talk about. And I had a coach tell me when I went to coach him, it's what you don't say that's most important, right? On a football field. That's kind of what he said about coaching quarterbacks. You got to watch. You can say too much, and just this whole developing quarterbacks and finding a quarterback. I don't know, Tom. I find it super interesting, man. It's so hard to do.
It is. It's such an inexact science. It really is. And like I spent much of last week's show saying to you guys, like, look, I'm confused because saw a lot of things that Justin did that were very impressive. And then you just, at the end of the day, you also have to factor in the 2 fumbles that happened in the fourth quarter. And you ride the roller coaster with the team and with the evaluation process. And nothing's perfect. Chase is right. Like Ryan Poles has got a really difficult decision, but he's also got a lot of assets at his disposal. So it's a tough call, but he's got cap space. He's got draft currency. And from my perspective, I think he's got the support of the president of the organization. So it's going to be very interesting to watch the last 5 weeks of this season. I do believe that you can change people's minds. You can change the narrative. Football can be a week-to-week sport. It can be one of those things where I have a really strong feeling today, based on how you play over the course of a couple of weeks, I may change my opinion on something. It's just the nature of the beast with this sport. So I think a lot of decisions can be affected. Are a lot of important decisions already leaning strongly in one position? Probably so, but it ain't over till it's over, right?
No, it's not. And if you look at it, Cap, like we're talking to Chase, and the Bears organization built everything around Mitch. It was Nagy, it was Mark Hefford from Oregon, and it was Dave Ragone. I mean, you would say that's built the right way, right? They brought in Harry Heastand from Notre Dame to coach the offensive line. They had dudes. I mean, in 2018, it went the right way. In 2019, it went the wrong way. So Chase is just all the places he's been, he's a really interesting guy to talk to and listen to him and try to get what he's trying to say about quarterbacks, because as you guys know, it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain why it works and why it doesn't work. And we all knew Cat wouldn't let him leave without asking him the hardest question he had to answer for the day. Hey, why did your friend fail?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I loved Mitch. Like, I was the one guy in town I'm rooting for the Steelers Thursday night because Mitch is starting.
But what was Chase's last phrase? He didn't make enough plays. And that's the answer to your question. It really is.
Yeah.
I think this is a really interesting dynamic that exists here right now as well. And I think Olin made a great point last week when we talked. When you look at what Philadelphia has done with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is playing in a system now with the Eagles, basically that he played in at Alabama and at Oklahoma as well. I think Justin has found himself in an environment where somebody asked the other day, well, what is Luke Getsy's system? And I would tell people now, put on the tape of the Kansas City Chiefs Green Bay Packers game. That's Luke Getsy's system. That's the system he came from. That's what he wants to do. It's heavy play action pass. They run the ball. They do a lot of motion. They do a lot of stuff. You do have to function from the pocket. And I don't know if that particular system plays to the strengths of Justin and the current quarterback situation that they have. So it's kind of like a push and pull scenario that I think has existed. I don't think any one person or any one thing is the reason why they haven't found, common ground more times than not. But I do believe, as Olin said, it's one thing that resonated with me last week after the show was, if you're going to run that style of offense, you better have people that are used to doing it and have done it in previous stops and aren't trying to adapt on the fly. It's asking a lot. It really is.
All right, we're going to take our quick time out. We'll come back. You're watching Feldco Football Recap Live with Olin Kreutz, Tom Waddle. I'm David Kaplan. Be right back.
Hey, Dad, we're running low.
We'll be all right.
What is going on here?
Insulation? I'm chilly.
I can't help you with a decoration, but I can help you replace these windows fast.
Right now, buy one window and you'll get one free. Plus, no interest until 2025. And we'll get it done Feldco fast.
Buy one window, get one free, and soon. Hurry. Call now.
Call 866 for Feldco.
Feldco Bears Recap Live is brought to you by Feldco, Chicago's home renewal experts. Call 866-4-FELDCO. 4 Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. For all the right reasons, 4 Seasons. Vienna Beef. Go to viennabeef.com and use code CAP23. That's KAP23 at checkout for 15% off your order today. And Dr. Pepper. Grab an ice-cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you. Westtown Bakery in Wheeling at the corner of Lake Cook Road and Milwaukee. Enjoy the best brunch Saturday and Sunday mornings. Speaking of Westtown Bakery, they sponsor our next segment. Look what they sent me today. Oh, man. You talk about...
You're growing muscle on the spot, Cap.
I'm burning muscle on the spot, no question. Yep. I'm covering it up.
You gotta have muscle to burn it.
That's it.
You gotta have muscle to burn it.
Here, I want you to look at our Winging It segment brought to you by Westtown Bakery, corner of Lake Cook and Milwaukee in Wheeling. And here are the top quarterback prospects in this coming draft. Caleb Williams, for all the nonsense that went on with I'm not going to speak and I'm crying and I'm this, 30 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Drake May, a 24-9 TD to interception ratio at North Carolina. Just the name North Carolina scares Bears fans because Mitch came from there. Jaden Daniels, who's probably going to win the Heisman on Saturday night. 40 touchdowns to 4 interceptions for the LSU Tigers. And then you have J.J. McCarthy, who Jim Harbaugh just says, that's what a winning quarterback looks like. 19 TDs, 4 interceptions. They had one game. They didn't even throw a pass in the second half. And then Bo Nix, 40-3, and ridiculous numbers.
Bo Nix looks like he's 35 years old in that.
He does. He looks like he's like a head of sales at a company,
And by the way, I'm in full support of these older guys playing.
Yes.
The product is better.
Yes.
They're paying these guys now, so this is not amateur sports anymore. I'm in full support of them playing till later, and if every kid gets 6 years, then they all end up getting that advantage anyway.
It's an interesting point you make too, Olin, because you showed J.J. McCarthy. He's the youngest of all of them. J.J.'s 20. Local kid, played at Nazareth, I think from LaGrange or somewhere in the area. Yeah. But he's only 20 years old, and that's part of the equation too. I think it's easier for NFL front office people to evaluate you based on your snap totals. And guys like Caleb Williams have had twice as many snaps in college football, and so has Bo Nix versus a guy like J.J. McCarthy.
So, like Michael Penix, we didn't have room to fit them all on there. Michael Penix was really good the other day for Washington. He was also a good player at Indiana before he transferred. Bo Nix, 40-4. That's a pretty impressive ratio there, Olin. So how do you look at these quarterbacks and make that decision?
Yeah, it's what we just talked to Chase about, right? And I think these guys who have all this talent, and you got to make sure you have the talent and stuff first, and then you watch the film, and they're going to perform. And like Chase talked about, you turn on Justin Fields' Ohio State film, and he's holding the ball for 4 to 6 seconds. He's got all the time in the world. He's got all the best receivers. How does it translate, right? How does Tom Brady, not even start at Michigan, be a 6th-round pick and become the best ever at New England? And the only thing I can think about is you got to get your feet on the ground. You got to get in the building. You got to talk to people. You got to get real answers. You got to put the guy in the room. You got to figure out who they really are and just try to follow the trends and try to listen to what people are actually trying to say to you. And that's the hardest thing, I think, Tom, when you talk to somebody, like when you're talking to Chase and you're trying to pick out like what he's actually saying about the quarterback position. And like we talk about all the time, you can tell when he talks, he's a quarterback apologist, right? You can see the film. You can see it. I do the same thing with offensive line play, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
You can make the film say. I tell people I can make the film say anything I want it to say when I turn on.
Same
I can
with
find
numbers.
a way to not blame anybody, right? So it's just hard, like you got I don't think anybody's figured it out yet, but I would imagine your feet on the ground and trying to figure out what the coach is actually saying to you and what the film is actually saying to you, because I can make the film sing any tune I want it to sing.
Same with numbers, statistics. I say that all the time. I make statistics sing whatever song I want them to sing. I can support a perspective and tear apart a perspective based on numbers. Look, I think it'd be irresponsible of me to say, hey, I think Caleb Williams is the guy or Drake May's the guy or JJ. I haven't watched every snap. I haven't been in the building the way that Olin has. That is Ryan Poles' job. And that's why I've said all along, if Ryan Poles goes through this process, he does have more than likely the first overall selection in the upcoming draft. And he decides that one of these guys checks every one of those boxes that Olin just talked about. And that guy, he believes strongly, can take his football team to a higher place than where the current quarterback can take him. Then you have to make that draft pick and you have to pivot and move on. If he goes through this evaluation process with all of those guys you mentioned, and doesn't come away with the strong thought that we're better off with one of these guys versus the guy I have, then that makes the other decision, much more likely. This is why it's a really difficult. He's got a lot at his disposal. He's got a lot of assets that he has to work with, but it's an important decision for him. It's a difficult decision, I'm sure, as well.
It's
for a young guy too, Cap, man. Wow. I mean, what a job.
Yeah, but as Tommy always says to me, to whom much is given, much
Absolutely.
is expected.
Would love to have that job,
Yeah.
right? Would love to be in that chair to make that decision. I mean, that's what everyone dreams about. But he's got to collect all the information and talk to people he knows. And I tell you what, man, I would call Jay Cutler and talk to him about what kind of guy he thinks can make it in Chicago. I would call former quarterbacks that have failed here and ask them what they thought about it. I might even talk to Mitch Trubisky and ask him, why didn't you make it? What did you think? You heard Chase say, and I was interested to hear him say that he played here too for 2 years, right? And he watched Mitch Trubisky. You heard him say, it's a hard town to play quarterback in, man. They're always clamoring. You know what he told you? We hear them. So he told you. We hear them and we feel them, and we know the pressure that comes with playing quarterback for the Chicago Bears. I think you got to collect as much information as humanly possible, and you got to decide if Justin Fields is the guy or if you need another guy.
And that is why, Olin, I do believe, if in fact you decide to move away and make a decision at the coaching position, that Jim Harbaugh is a very important name to keep your mind wrapped around, because he played the quarterback position here. He played here for a long period of time. He knows what it's like here. Now, things change over the course of time. Yes, that is true, but some things stay the same. So I think that's a name. I think that's a person. Obviously, it's not flying under the radar. It's right in our face at all times. But it's an interesting dynamic that if, in fact, change is going to take place at the end of the year, that's a name that you have to keep in on the front of your brain for sure.
When you look at Brock Purdy, I'm going to ask you guys, again, you haven't been in the building with him, but you guys are brilliant football minds. You look at Brock Purdy. I only speak the truth. Let me just tell you what a great executive does. He surrounds himself with the best. And I got the two best. So I watch Brock Purdy and I go, okay, he's not the fastest. He's not the biggest. He doesn't have the strongest arm. That son of a bitch knows how to run the system that Kyle Shanahan asked him to run, and he is a really good football player. So is he a product of the system, or that guy's a damn good quarterback?
Yes.
I think he can be both. Yeah, go ahead, Tom. Yes.
I'll just say yes and yes.
Yeah. I mean, he can be both, and he has, has 3 or 4 guys that are top 3 or 4 in their position in the whole NFL, right? So, and he has a very good play caller, and he's surrounded, but he's also very good at this thing everyone talks about, processing information. He does a very nice job of getting into the finding out who's one-on-one, who do I go through, and then he has a guy who can win a one. And then guys like the screens we complained about last week, that's what they threw to Deebo Samuel.
Yes.
Right? Like the screen everyone complained about last week. That's what Deebo Samuel caught and took to the house, the tunnel screen. And guess who blocked for him? Trent Williams. And Aaron Banks, the left guard who plays for face from Notre Dame, another Harry Heastan guy, but he got out there too. And they're right out there. And if you just watch the player, right? Coaching at Carmel Catholic this year, I was telling the receiver, you got to go inside. And he said, why, coach? I said, because there's no, oh, maybe, no, you're wrong. If you go outside, you're wrong. You may not have a good play, but you're completely wrong for going outside. You watch these guys run it like the linemen are running flat. He's coming. It's coached well. They got good players. It is all of that combined, Cap, that makes their offense, gosh, it almost looks impossible to stop right now.
You know, he can spin it too. Like, I don't care what anybody says. He can spin it. His anticipation on throws, the anticipatory throws are, they're there. Like, he knows when the ball needs to hit into that first window or the second window. Look, this is a ridiculous statement. I get it. And people will laugh when I say it. Do you know who else was pretty much described in the manner in which you described Brock Purdy? Joe Montana. Doesn't have a great arm, is a product of the system, has so much talent around him, has Bill Walsh as his coach. Like, a lot of that's true. It's a combination of both, I guess, is what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, Joe Montana would have succeeded in anybody's offense. I don't know that that's the case with Brock, but I wouldn't undersell his ability to play the position. Would he excel here the way he does in San Francisco? Maybe not, because he's got better talent there. He's got better coaching out there. But, somebody still has to make that throw. Somebody still has to make that decision, as Olin said too. Somebody still has to go through the progressions. He's got to know what he sees, be married to what his role is when he sees certain looks, and get the ball where it needs to go. So I'm not going to downgrade his ability just because he's in, an offense that actually makes me feel warm and fuzzy.
All right, let's talk about the Lions game before I spring you guys. Brought to you by Vienna Beef, our eye on our opponent. Please, I had a couple buddies. They ordered a bunch of Vienna food and had a tailgate out west before they watched a Bears game, the Monday night game, actually. You go there, you get the promo code CAP23. You're going to get a discount on it, 15% off your order, viennabeef.com. And it is awesome, awesome food, man. The Lions are rolling. They're really, really good. So, Olin, what is the biggest key besides taking care of the football? What is the biggest key to being able to handle Dan Campbell's guys the second time?
You're making Jared Goff as uncomfortable as you made him the last time, or just by getting near him, pass rush, obviously stopping the run first. Talk about Andrew Billings. They do, even though Frank Ragnow may be out there, they're a really good center. They get Jonah Jackson back. Jonah Jackson wasn't there for the first game. He is their left guard. As good as everybody is, guys, he is their linchpin in the run game. He is a very, very good left guard. So stopping that run, and to me, making Goff uncomfortable again, because they do, man. A receiver, a tight end, running back, they have a ton of talent on the offense side of the ball and a very good play caller.
Hey, guys, defensively, I don't think this is a very good group. As I said earlier, they're giving up 29 points per game their last 6 games, 25 sacks on the season. The Bears beat the Vikings kicking 4 field goals. You will not beat the Lions kicking 4 field goals. You have to score touchdowns. I believe last time they played, they scored 25 points. Got to score touchdowns. Cairo Santos has been their most consistent player, regardless of position, all year long. But I want to see him on the sideline. I want to see them get the football into the end zone. Got to score touchdowns.
Tommy, a prediction on the score?
Jesus, I want to pick them. I really do, because as I said earlier, I think the Lions are gettable right now. I really do. I thought, they had solved all their problems when they went up 21-0 against the Saints on Sunday. I was like, well, that's what I was looking for. I was looking for them to come out of that valley, and then their defense reared its ugly head again, and you can see that they're gettable. I still believe that the Lions are the class of the division, so I think it's close again, but I'd probably say 24-23 Lions.
Wow. Right down to the freaking wire.
This Bears team, I think, is going to compete with everybody that's left on their schedule.
All right. I don't even ask Olin for a prediction. He saves that for Sunday. Does your daughter
trying to get me fired, Cat?
What's that?
So you're trying to get me fired?
Yeah, exactly. What does your daughter have for us back there today? Anything?
Nothing. She got nothing today. I think they're out there doing the trees, the Christmas trees. So the other day, though, my cat got stuck in a tree. She was out for the whole night. So it's been a lot of drama around here for a while.
Oh, wow. Tommy, I've been to Olin's house several times. They take Halloween seriously,
really?
Man.
No, Wendy takes every holiday very seriously.
Same with Mindy here.
The Halloween's all down already. Christmas is up.
I was going to say, are you guys to go out there and put the decorations up yourself, or do you actually hire some people to do that for you?
It's a mix. It's a mix of both. but Wendy does most of the work. Her and the 4 girls hang everything up.
Pretty awesome. And your sons just finished their season, correct?
They're finished. Yeah, they're just finishing school now, and they'll be home. They didn't make a bowl game, sadly, but they'll now they get to come home for Christmas, which is not what you want to do as a college player. So I just took my Illinois stuff, put it away, and grabbed my Washington stuff and took it out.
That's it. Said, son, take a look at that big
Well,
W.
at least we don't have to argue about whether or not Washington was worthy of one of the 4 spots, because they definitely were.
Yeah, that's always an interesting thing to me now that, like, I know what everyone's saying about all that, but now that it actually is a business, they can treat it as such.
Yes. Yep.
Did you feel, both of you, that Florida State should have been in? Because I felt they were the most deserving, but if we're taking the 4 best teams without Jordan Travis, they're not one of the 4 best.
Yeah. I mean, but if that's true, you can't leave Georgia out either.
Right. Agreed. You could have put them in over Texas.
The funny thing is it's not the 4 most deserving teams, and it's not the 4 best teams. I thought saw somebody tweet that, because you're right, Olin. If in fact it was the 4 best teams, I'd make an argument that Georgia should be in there ahead of Texas. Texas beating Alabama early in the year. Everyone wants to say, well, Alabama's a different team now than they were early in the year. If that's the case, then Texas beat an inferior Alabama team early in the year, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm just happy that next year all this nonsense goes away, and they're going to expand it to 12. And we'll bitch and moan about number 13 that gets left out.
No doubt.
But I'll have less angst in my system about number 13 being left out versus 5 or 6 being left out.
Yeah, the best team will win the championship, and they'll all be in, and we'll find out next year.
Yeah.
Olin, best of luck to your Washington Huskies.
Not to the first. We'll talk again before that happens.
Oh, yeah, but it'll be cool. Tommy, Boston College, they make a bowl game this year or no?
They did not. Toilet Bowl is their destination. Once I take that back. I think they are bowl eligible. I think they had 6 wins. So I you know what? I apologize to Jeff Hafley, the coach, and to the organization, because I do believe it may be a minor bowl, but they are bowl.
A bowl is a bowl, man.
Yeah,
How about your college make a bowl game?
I don't think Hamlin University is headed to a bowl game this year. Sadly.
Kaplan versus Dorm C.
Yeah, exactly. Kaplan Field is going to be quiet at the holidays. Hey, you guys have a great
They do playoffs, right? They do
What's
playoffs.
That?
They do playoffs, don't they?
We do playoffs. We did not, sadly, make the playoffs.
Oh, man.
Anyway, you guys have a wonderful night. I'll talk to you next week, and we'll recap the Lions game and get set for, I think it's Cleveland the week after on the road. So you guys have a great rest of your week. I appreciate you both greatly.
Yep. Thank you, Cap.
Hi, guys.
Olin, take care.
Hey, Dad, we're running low.
We'll be all right.
What is going on here?
Insulation? I'm chilly.
I can't help you with a decoration, but I can help you replace these windows fast. Right now, buy one window and you'll get one free. Plus, no interest until 2025. And we'll get it done Feldco fast. Buy one window, get one free, and soon. Hurry. Call now.
Call 866 for Feldco.
Feldco Bears Recap Live is brought to you by Feldco, Chicago's home renewal experts. Call 866-4-FELDCO. Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. For all the right reasons, Four Seasons. Vienna Beef. Go to viennabeef.com and use code CAP23. That's KAP23 at checkout for 15% off your order today. And Dr. Pepper. Grab an ice cold, refreshing Dr. Pepper today at a McDonald's near you. West Town Bakery in Wheeling at the corner of Lake Cook Road and Milwaukee. Enjoy the best brunch Saturday and Sunday mornings.